So, any, Mike?
Yep, I got it.
So how was that exercise?
Painful.
Painful. Why was it painful?
We couldn't talk. It was hard to organize who was doing what.
Yeah.
Limited communication.
Okay. Anyone else?
Fun.
It was fun? Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun. Can anyone think of how to, this is what we call serious play, and we actually coined the term before Lego did, by the way. And we do this exercise with kids, with middle management, and with CEOs, executives. And what we would normally do next, we would harvest that and ask the group what worked towards us fulfilling that goal and what worked against. But the thing is that it is a hard exercise because no one person has the answer. You need to trust. No one has the vision. No one knows what the outcome is going to be. The leader doesn't know what the outcome is. All they can do, what's your name? Chris. All you can do is what Chris did was like walk around and go, how's it going? Are you all right? You doing okay? And just try and maintain the frames and the group and allow them to do what they need to do. At the KAOS Pilots, we run a process called creative leadership. And it's about really trying to change the hierarchical industrial form of leadership when you actually create the frames and the space to allow the people who you've hired to do what you've hired them to do. To get the hell off the stage, get out of the way, and sustain and maintain the frames. And do interventions when you need to. And the less you do interventions, and maybe they might have to make some mistakes along the way, they won't make the mistakes a second time. But if you keep on stepping in, then they're never going to learn. And this is the balance, right? Because you're working to deadlines. You're working to like product deadlines. You're working to a profit and time ratio. And it's really, really challenging. But let's face it, the challenges that we're facing as entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, as human beings are getting more complex. And as human beings, all we want to do is make everything fucking simple. Simple, simple, simple. And even if we're working with chaos or complex or complicated, we want to get it here as soon as possible because it's nice and warm and cozy here. We love simple. And if you move there too fast, and if you don't give complexity a chance, it's not a negative thing. It's a chance to actually probe, sense, and respond. And when you've done that, you can move it over to complicated, where you analyze, sense, and respond. And then you move it down to simple, which actually ends up being best practice. And this is created by a guy called Dave Snowden. It's called the Cynefin model. And it's huge now within consultancy. Because the first thing that consultants do when they go to organizations, and organizations they go, what's your problem? Oh, we've got a complicated problem. And they go, okay, and they look at the problem, they go, actually, it's a complex problem. So let's start here. And it completely changes the mindset of how you're going to solve that problem. If you push it to simple too soon, and people don't get it, and there's no ownership, then it becomes chaos again. So what we do is we train our students to work from disorder. And from disorder, create the change, but it has to be sustainable change. Does anyone know who DHOC is? This is America, and no one knows who DHOC is. DHOC is the founder of Visa, the Visa card. Yes, and I can understand why you might have never heard about him. You might even hate him. At least hate him at the beginning of the month, or at the end of the month, or like him at the end of the month, hate him at the beginning of the month. But DHOC made happen what people and banks have been trying to make happen for decades. He made the credit card work. And in the 4th semester of the KAOS Pilots, after they've spent 3 semesters learning about leadership and business and project and process, rather than keeping them in nice, safe Denmark, we literally moved the whole classroom to an emergent economy, emergent place, or a place that we can learn from. And in '95, we moved the whole classroom to San Francisco. And we had the luxury of staying in the Bay City, the old tram center there, before it was done up, because it was very cheap. And there was an old man sitting there for a couple of weeks hanging out. We didn't know who the hell he was. He goes, "Oh man, KAOS Pilots are great. I really like it. I love the vibe. Can I hang out for a while?" Yeah. And then one of the students said, "Hey, who are you?" And he goes, "I'm D-Hawk." "Okay. I'm the creator of Visa." Fuck. Really? Shit, man. That's wild. And at that point, he started realizing what he had done. And he wanted to work with the KAOS Pilots and help us take what he had learned on the commercial level and bring it to a social level. But what he says is that when he's working with chaotic leadership, which is what this represents, which is what we teach our students, it's the ability to go into an organization or into an industry and establish which are the organizations that are heading towards order and control for the right or wrong reasons, and which are the ones that are actually heading towards apathy and chaos because it's just gone crazy. They've lost a strategy, they've lost their vision, they're all over the place. But what he's saying is that there's a fine balance between chaos and order. And if you can find that balance, from there you can actually re-innovate or recreate organizations and strategy and vision and culture. So at the KAOS Pilots, what's really important for us is that we learn our tools on a global level. So about 60% of the projects that the students do are done outside Denmark. All the projects we do with the students are with real clients, with real consequences and real contracts. So already after 6 months into the education, the students are charging clients for work. And that's really difficult for a young person to figure out, this is an internship opportunity, what am I worth? We help them a little bit, but they have to figure it out themselves. So we're already helping them understand the change and the impact that they can have even as students. So our students work everywhere from Australia, South Africa, Mexico, Brazil, and so on, and a lot of projects around Europe. When they go and do these projects, they finance it themselves. They crowdsource, they do whatever they do. Last year, a group of students went down to work outside Mexico City in a community that was extremely depressed, whose only resource was the waste of Mexico City. And they actually created a social enterprise down there with those people. When we went to Bogota, we worked with the former mayor to help them try to hold on to all the good work that he had done, that the new mayor was destroying. We worked with the mounted police force in helping them get trust from the people so that the concept was that they can get through the traffic faster and help the people believe that they were there to benefit them and not to watch them. 23-year-old students ended up facilitating and hosting the first workshop between the victims of FARC and FARC rebels who had given up their guns at 23 years of age, because we teach them systemic thinking, holistic thinking, appreciative inquiry, all the things that you can do. And the concept of systemic thinking is that you can enter a system, an organization, be aware of the effect you're having on that system, and understand that the cause of the problems of that system are created by the system. And the solution, if come to by the system and not by the leader coming down, the likelihood of changing is massively increased. Because it's systemic. People have ownership over the solution. We have to stop this top-down, all the time focus if you want your organization and your staff to grow. Okay, move on. We focus on the fourth sector. So over the course of the 3 years, the students practice business, project, process, and leadership in the public sector, the private sector, and the NGO sector. So they understand not only where do I belong, where do I feel good, what fulfills or complements my values as a human being. Am I okay working in the corporate sector? And these are the sort of clients we work with. We work with BMW. We work with Vestas, the big windmill organization. Not just us, but our students as well. So we aim our students towards understanding and working in the fourth sector. So that when they leave, they have an opportunity to either work in connecting public and private together, or work directly in the public or private sector. And in Europe, 70% of our students who go on to be consultants work in bridging the public and the private sector. Because A, they speak both languages. And what can they learn from each other? The private sector can learn about spending less and having higher impact and scalability. And the public sector can learn more about business strategy from the private sector. So it all starts with the human being and the person. And when we're teaching entrepreneurship, the whole concept of the education is we want students to figure out what are they deeply passionate about, what drives their economic engine, and what can they be best in the world at. And they have 3 years to explore that. When we're teaching the students and when we're consulting in organizations, again it comes down to this thing that as a leader you can either lead the particles, lead the individuals, lead the subordinates, lead the teams or the individuals, or you can create the frames that helps them perform better, greater, and actually be more creative. It's not easy, it takes time. And to go back to DHOC, what DHOC's idea of what made Visa successful for him was he found the right way to lead an organization. And if we have a person in the middle where we have the amount of focus you do based on your staff, the amount of time you have to reflect, the amount of time you focus on your colleagues or on a lateral level, or sorry, on a linear level, and the amount of focus you have on your leaders. So out of 100%, what percentage would you think, if practicing chaotic leadership and creative leadership, and making it really work in an ideal situation, what would the percentages be here? Any ideas? How much time should you spend as a creative leader on your staff?
What's that one on the left?
This is a personal development and reflection and bringing back into your practice. Yeah. So in order to actually work with that last model where you create the frames and give your students the opportunity, or give your staff the opportunity to learn and do their jobs really well, so you can step a bit back. If you perfect that, DHOC says that, you should only have to spend 5% of your time working with people underneath you.
I was going to say 50.
Yeah? It might be 50 now. But what he's saying is that if you learn how to be a creative leader and actually, allow this team and understand that maybe you can step out of the process and just maintain the frames and step in when you need to and allow them to learn. So you need to intervene less. Eventually, he says, and when he was creating Visa, he got so good at it that he only spent 5% on his staff. He also says that he encourages his staff to spend 20% of their time learning and teaching your peers, the people at the same level as you in the organization. And he says that you should spend 50% on developing yourself. And what's really important here, as a student or as a staff member, you have a responsibility to help make your leader better. And what's really interesting here is that this is the model we're teaching at the KAOS Pilots, and it works. It breaks down this idea that our leaders are leading us and we shouldn't have to make them better. But what it means is that change can happen and can come from any position, any chair in an organization, if the leader is willing. Okay, I'm going to finish up shortly. All right. Another DHOC thing was, and this is something we use for social enterprise and also for enterprise, is that everything comes from a need that you see or an idea you have. All businesses and products and services ideas come from an idea you have or a need that you see. If there's no need, then don't do it. It's very simple, right? Because you're not going to have a very successful organization. If you have an idea, you have to explore what the need is. If you have a need, you've got to explore what the idea is. And then you've got to think about what is that need and that idea in relation to me as a consumer, but also the world. Because if the world has that need, then you have huge potential to scale your company. Based on that, then, you've got to figure out what is the purpose of the product or service or the project. What are the values that you're bringing, whether they're authentic, whether they're social, green, or just profitable, or whatever. What is the concept? Who are the team? What's the structure of that team? And how are you going to get to market and produce your product? Okay. The last thing I'll say about it is that this exercise we did, it represents quite normally the way we approach projects. Usually when we get projects, we just dive straight in. And what most of you probably have experienced, except for this group who, the guy with number 1 just took the whole board and said, this is mine, I'm taking care of this, and then spread it around. If that didn't happen, there would have been trouble. But there's 3 stages that all projects go through if you don't do what we call a project. And that's chaos, right? Then you go through control. And then finally you go to collaboration. So when you were playing this game, you were there going, all the hands were in at the beginning, that was chaos. Then someone tried to step in and stop it all and take control. People didn't trust that control. And then eventually you got to some form of collaboration where you actually listened to each other and supported each other's tasks. And there's a woman in Denmark called Lotte Darso, and she's one of the leading writers and researchers about innovation. And what she says is that 9 out of 10 innovations fail. Innovation is a tough process. But if you do what she calls a project, you will reduce that failure by 50%. And what that means is that before you start the project, you work with a group of people to find out and ensure that you have direction, alignment, commitment, and resources for that project. So what's really important for us as creative leaders and leaders to go into organizations and lead businesses is this. Lead with intentionality and integrity, democratize innovation, we experiment, prototype early and learn, we explore risk, collaborate and network, measurement and accountability, clear communication, listening, establish mutual trust, and choose your perspective. So this is the last slide I'll do because I see everyone's getting tired and I'm getting tired. But just look at that and ask yourself, as a leader, how much of this you do. And maybe the way you work and the style of leadership you have is exactly right. But if you really want to open up to your staff and sustain and give them some element of autonomy and creativity, then maybe you could try some of these things.
What's the book that's from?
Sorry?
What's the book that's from?
It's from INSEAD, from the school in France. Yeah. That's it.
Thank you for coming all this way and spending this time with us.